involved. Like the fact that they have put three black women together and they're calling themselves the big three, shutting down social media every single time you see a post, that has elevated the company because now you have sisters at the fucking salon talking about wrestling.
What's going on, everybody? It's Webster Sal, the man, the voice, the fragrance. And we're here with one of my brothers in Geekdom who I had the pleasure of meeting. I was thinking about, I think it's about 2 years now, the HBC Yukon. And I was like, man, it's really been 2 years already. Goodness, time flies.
Yes, it
But I'm
does.
here with my man Nix from Do You Speak Geek. Nix, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Yeah, it's been a while. 2 years since HPC UConn. Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I'm like, man, it's really been I think the pandemic just like killed our whole sense of time.
Listen, listen, me and my wife had a theory just this morning because we realized that it's been 5 years since Endgame came out. So,
Right.
in Endgame, they fast forwarded 5 years. I'm like, oh, we are now in the year of the Endgame. No wonder everything's been a blur. We've been blipped.
Yes.
We're just getting back to the right timeline.
Wow. That's amazing to think about it that way, but that's so true. It's so true.
Yeah, man. But how about you? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Before we started this, we're a bit late because honeydew lists, wife need things. So
Yes,
I'm running
yes.
around doing that, especially for impending travel. So but I'm doing good, just much like you got the family, you got the real job, but then it's the passion and putting in the work and the grinding and everything. And I don't know about you, but a lot of this is really an escape from everything else in life that's going on. It's such a creative outlet. So just been trying to keep on it, stay consistent, trying to figure out new ideas, new thoughts for content to keep things diversified and fresh and not trying to be stale with what I do.
Yeah, I understand that completely. Blurred Con has a Facebook page, of course, and they had a post recently about something about a girl asking, "Well, why do you guys play video games all the time?" And the comment I put, which is somehow the most liked comment, I put because a PS5 is cheaper than therapy, and
Right.
because in the long run, you know, you got to have your outlet, and doing this, being in a creative space, podcasting, creating content, video content, sometimes even audio content, it's a way to keep yourself sane and
Yes.
give yourself something to do. Because
Yes.
when you're just having this idle time with nothing to do, you tend to do things that not necessarily are healthy for you and aren't good for you. So
Right.
I challenge everybody: listen, find a creative outlet. You'll be
I agree.
surprised at how much better you are in the long run. And yeah, it's sometimes depending upon who you are and whatever that creative space is, it could be a money saver. I don't know. I know friends who are artists who paint and draw and all kind of stuff, and they have these art budgets that are insane to me. I'm like, you spent that much on paint, my boy.
Right. So
But yeah, it's a good thing to have a creative space to
I want to
get
comment on
all that
the
out.
video game comment though, because that is literally I saw something similar on Instagram today, and all I thought was we're in the year 2024. Men our age, not just men, people our age, have been
Hmm.
playing video games literally their whole lives. I
Exactly.
don't understand why this keeps coming up about men playing video games or there being some sort. I'm like, do you not know people who play video games that are successful and have a job and families? And because I know plenty. I talked to female friends who go out on dates and they play video games with their men. I mean, so I don't understand why this concept keeps coming up unless they're just thinking about the extreme of those that all they do are play video games. And even so, look, if they look, their bills are paid, what difference does it make what they do with
Exactly.
their free time? So I don't understand that because we're gamers, we've been gamers for our whole lives, and I don't understand why that's all of a sudden become this issue, and it's recurring as well, which is really weird to me.
Yeah, the discourse of it is wild to me because you know I've seen some of those same podcasts, and unfortunately, most of them come from the mouths of women who
Yes.
say that men, you play video games, like, ew, you lame, you this, that, and the third. But it's like, if you only understood, like I said, a piece five cheap in therapy. But if you only understood how much of a release, a healthy release, video
Right.
games can be, then you wouldn't be on this man or just men's back period at all. And you said yourself, all of us, men and women, if you are in your 40s, if you because let's say this is 2024, if you were born in 84, there's a good chance you've been playing video games your entire
Right.
life. We're gonna be the old people in the old folks home. Like, listen, bring me my bring my PS3, put it in my room.
Right.
Just come visit me whenever you want to. We're gonna be the ones that have the PlayStations and the Xboxes in our rooms when we go to the retirement homes. I think it's
Yes.
gonna be one of the coolest things ever. But
LAN parties with Halo on the original Xbox.
man, yeah.
That's a beautiful thought right there.
Could you imagine, like, you have whole ass game tournaments in the lobby of the old folks' homes? Like, you walk up and like they getting down on Tekken, like, hey, hold up, man, I got next. Tell Grandpa put the sticks up. Let me get it going.
A pool on who's gonna win the tournament in 2K48 or whatever it
Right,
is.
right. Now, look, might not have no. I can't get and walk around like I used to, but I still got these thumbs.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll
Still
bust your ass. I still bust your ass in the system. Let's go.
right. It's amazing. I don't know. I just don't get it. Even from those individuals, I'm like, how have you not? I mean, look, I have a spouse that while she's not a gamer like me, she's played video games. She had brothers. She is in there and playing with the offspring, and they're doing things together. And the offspring plays gaming. They called me like, "Hey, Dad, we trying to figure this out. Can you figure this out?" But so to I don't. I'll say this in those people, and I don't want to harp on this part too long, but maybe it's just who they are. Because I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure you in your circles and people, your friends group, many a women that play video games that would never have an issue with anybody they dated playing video games. And I am the same way. I was like, when has this ever been? And I'm thinking, and I've been married, it'll be 17 years in September.
Awesome.
I'm even thinking anybody who I've ever dated, like that is never an issue, a problem. Most times we played together. I
Exactly.
remember in grad school because I was engaged to someone else in grad school. We lived together. I remember there was no issue with me. I remember it distinctly, and you're gonna laugh. It was Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball. I bought that for the
Ooh.
360. I think we played that all night, literally, because it was just so addictively fun and unlocking all the different costumes and everything. I distinctly remember, like, just up all night playing that game stupidly because it was just so fun.
It was
I
definitely
still got up.
something.
Right. I still got up and I took my classes. I taught my classes that day at the time. Um, like there was never an issue. So that's just that comment's weird. Let's talk about you and Do We Speak Geek. How did you start, or what prompted you to start it?
So uh I always I've always tend to tell this story of how, but not necessarily the why. But the how it got started, a friend of mine who is doing content himself, shout out to my man Pudgy Panther and his couch chat. He'll get me for that later on. He and I had discussed doing a podcast together for a while. So I'm like, okay, I don't know much about podcasting, but if we get to talk nerd shit, let's do it.
Right.
So he and I sat one time, got a few things down, but then his life took a different direction, and he didn't have the time, the space, or even the energy to put toward it. So I told my wife, I said, "Baby, it's not looking like it's gonna happen, but it's cool. Me and him are gonna stay friends, whatever, whatever." She said, "Well, why don't you do it?" I'm like by myself. It's like, "Yeah, why don't you do it?" So I was like, "All right, okay, I guess I'll give it a try." And fortunately for me, I had a friend who was a coworker as well, my man Chris Rowley. Shout out to Chris Rowley. He pretty much gave me everything that I need to know about podcasting. He gave me several Google Docs for free, didn't charge me anything. Pretty much gave me the keys to everything I knew initially to get
Mhm.
started. And everything else I pretty much, was a trial by fire, learning on my own, learning what, microphones to use, what sound best, what equipment to use. Then of course, watch what's trending with people who already are doing what I'm doing in this nerd space. I learned a lot from watching Micah at Blurred Over. I learned a lot from watching Chris at Blurred's Eye View. A lot from Navy Montel. Don't tell him I said that.
Too late.
I'm not. I'm not giving him his props. But yeah, just watching a lot of people, with Spice Run Podcast, Black Run Podcast, Fantastic Frankie, watching Head Nerds in Charge. A lot of people who are already doing what I was doing, watching what they were doing, and say, I like what they're doing. Let me see how I can do that, but my way. So to answer the why I got into it, I just got tired of being a spectator in this nerd culture. I absorbed all this knowledge over the years from reading comics and playing video games and working with tech pieces of equipment and things of that nature here, watching wrestling. And it's just that I knew so much and I was just a participator, I was a spectator. But, I want to be somebody who puts my thumbprint on this culture as well too, because I feel like I had a lot to contribute,
Right.
as far as ideas and just ways of doing things and ways of seeing things. So eventually, hopefully this thing ends up me being, I don't know, an executive somewhere at some sort of a company that rhymes with Gargle and GD, those companies like that, they rhyme like that, shout out to Disney, Marvel, DC, holla at me. But yeah, hopefully it leads something like that. But until then, man, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Bringing the news every week with DYSG podcast, the wrestling podcast, when we can all get on the same page for sure. We definitely do our thing every week. So I love my crew over there, man. Shout out to them. My wife, of course, is my right hand over that. The Love Blurs, me and my wife. We've been slacking. I know we've been slacking, but we're gonna do our thing eventually and get it back to working. But yeah, the why is that I just, I want to be able to contribute to a culture I love so much.
Yeah, I totally understand the why. And one of the things I think also with the why, even what you said, which kind of extrapolating a bit, one of the things I've learned is you can literally talk about the same stuff, but the way you do it resonates with people differently. And a different audience may gravitate more toward that subject matter compared to listening to someone else. Because even myself with the podcast and everything, it really bore out of, I guess, my fragrances even, and I it grew, and the more I did it, the better I got with it. Because like I did a Webster style podcast years ago, and that was kind of a hodgepodge really before I got into fragrances. But with Sartorial and Geek, it took me a minute to find my footing as far as what I wanted to do, what I wanted to talk about. Because I wanted the geeky stuff, I wanted the fragrance stuff, I wanted the style stuff. But now I know what I want to do. But my point is with that, the one thing I've learned, and is very much akin to what you do as well, because I talk about it. There are people that I know that have told me, hey, I never knew about that, or I never thought about getting it, or the way you describe it and talk about it just makes me more interested. And the same thing with you and what you do. The way you talk about it, the passion, it captivates people who could have heard somebody else say it, but because you said it and the way you said it, it hooks them in.
Yeah. Sometimes the message, it sometimes does matter where the message comes from for you to get it. It does matter. So, I only just hope that, one day I have said something to somebody or someone has heard a podcast and they be like, wow, man, that, like, I need to hear that. Or like, yo, I didn't think of that way. Or I didn't know that was a thing. Now, thank you for putting that story out there, because I didn't know that was a thing. Now, I learned something from listening to you. So I'm like, wow, that's all I hope for. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully that someone's listening and that, I'm not just doing this every week into the ether. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's how I felt. Look, if one person gets it and gets value from it, then I'm happy.
Exactly.
So you've also, was this the second year or third year of the Do You Speak Geek Awards?
Last year was the third year.
Oh, third year. Okay,
The
I'm totally off then. So how
Yeah,
did that come about?
man, I was just kind of thinking that I was just playing around one day. This was after, I want to say, after my second year of doing this whole podcasting thing, and I thought about like, yo, why isn't there like a geek awards, like an award show that just hands out geek awards for like best comic book this year, or the top cosplayer of the year. Like, why isn't there an award show for something like that?
Right.
And then I thought about it, and I'm like, maybe I could get this idea to somebody, pitch it to like executives, something like that. But then I thought about how we get
Hmm.
treated in these geek spaces. When people of color, we don't always get the best light or the best, exposure when it comes to these spaces. So I thought about, okay, maybe let's just make it something for blurs. So I thought, you know what, forget it. Let me just do it myself. So I thought of the categories. I thought of a nomination system. That first year I did it, I definitely don't want to do it that way again, because what I did was I pulled a pool of people together who I knew in the blurred space, and we all picked and chose who should be nominated. And then there was a little bit of backlash on my end about, who got picked and chose for whatever reason. So I'm like, okay, this is how I'm gonna do it from now on. I'm gonna let the people decide. So what I do is I put the categories out there, and I say, hey, who do you think should be nominated? And then after that nomination period time goes by, I say, okay, these are the top names nominated. Here's who's up for the awards because of your choices. And
Hmm.
now you guys are going to pick who the winner is. So I kind of took it out of my own hands, let
Right.
everyone else
Smart.
decide, let the people decide. And if it comes to a point like, hey, this person get nominated, like, hey, well, maybe you should nominate them. I did. Well, maybe you should, maybe persuade you to nominate them. You know what I'm saying? But I leave it up to the people to decide. And basically, by that, I took it out of my own hands. And two, I think it's for the people to decide anyway, because if this is our culture, like the same reason I chose to even do You Speak Geek, we should be participants in that culture. If we have an award show, the people should participate in who says or who gets what award.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's why I did that. And plus, I just think we deserve our recognition. We deserve our shine. I mean, how many years can we go by and watch, certain cosplayers kill it with every post before they're actually giving their flowers for saying, hey, you did this better than anybody this whole year. So I'm gonna give you your flowers for that. Or just like, hey, your Twitch streams are fire. You have been consistent this whole year. Let me give you this. So say, hey, yo, this nerdcore artist, they've had the best music all year. Let me give them their flowers. So I just feel like it was necessary to do that because, we need to have that recognition, because some people just feel like they're doing this for no reason, or they feel like they're not reaching anybody. So it's my way of letting them know, like, hey, we see you and you should be seen, like, on a global scale.
Right. And that's one of the things that really I really loved about the awards. Specifically talking about the cosplay one, and I'm just thinking of like the game awards, or even I see who are cosplay guests at a lot of conventions,
Mm-hmm.
and it is, unless it's something specifically focused on us, is very devoid of much diversity. I won't say any, but much diversity. And there
Mm-hmm.
are cosplayers that, we have similar timelines, people who we follow, and people just like we see in the circles that are grinding and putting in work. And the fact that none of these individuals really get their shine, I'm glad there's something like the Do You Speak Geek Awards that are out there to really give them their shine, because it's really necessary. And I think that with, an award of that nature, and also something the whole community can really come behind and celebrate as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and even with the way certain people are even seen as creators, like my wife, for example, she's a co-host on the podcast with me, this for the CCW podcast, and
Hmm.
also one half of the Love Blurs. You know what I'm saying? The content that people have seen so far from my wife is that, she's funny, she's very, you know, very engaging. She knows her wrestling. She knows her marriage stuff and the geek stuff that she talks about with me sometimes on Do You Speak Geek. People don't know why that's a hell of a cosplayer. And that's her own fault because she doesn't do a lot of pictures and photos and content with her cosplays, but she's an incredible cosplayer. Nakia Renee is another example. Everyone knows Nakia Renee from, doing the print ads and, things she's done for, her only friends. But at the same time, people don't realize that if they pay attention, Nakia Renee is, to me, a top tier cosplayer, and it's just me giving people the flowers for saying that not only that we see you, but we see that effort that you're putting in.
Right.
And I'm going to give you your flowers because of that, because of the hard work you put in. People don't understand the hard work sometimes.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you totally. And I say, your podcast, I was saying, like, when I was editing this morning, I got up, let me just, I don't get on live on TikTok hardly ever, but let me just get on, and I'm just talking, and I went through a myriad of things, but I was saying this morning that people don't understand, like, it takes more time to edit an audio podcast than a video podcast for me. And I was telling people, like, when you hear yourself, you hear all those little idiosyncrasies. So then you're like cutting things out. You're cutting out silence. Video, I said, is a bit better because if I'm seeing it as I'm talking, then my rate of speaking is different. I like to say there's a lot of time that goes in behind the scenes to make a finished product, regardless of what sort of creative effort that you have. And I think it's awesome that you are consistently finding a way to recognize all of that hard work, because none of this is easy. And the fact that you and others are out there that are, putting a shine on the hard part of it is really awesome as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, look, speaking to that whole editing audio, man, listen, if people only understood just how hard it is, or just the meticulousness that goes into editing an audio podcast, like you ever had that? I don't know if y'all noticed, man, but y'all ain't never had to edit out swallows. Like the microphone, listen, the microphone I got now is one thing, but I used to record solely on a Blue Yeti, and that condenser mic picked up everything. And when I say everything, it picked up everything. So there were moments when I was editing my podcast and I heard myself just go, and I had to edit that shit out. And it's like, I'm sitting here editing out swallows. Yes. I'm editing out spit swallows. Like, people don't like, editing a podcast is some just meticulous work you just do not feel like doing.
No, like for me,
but you want it to be great, you'll take that time.
Right. I tend to lick my lips, so then my lips are moist. So it's almost sounds like they're smacking at times when I'm talking, and I'm listening. I'm like, okay, I gotta edit that. I know what the sound sounds like. I know what it looks like on Audacity now. Like, I know what that peak looks like.
Yeah.
Like, it is.
And
it is so annoying.
You gotta, and when you sitting there cutting out like the 30th one and you ain't even halfway done, it's like, God, oh man, why did I even start doing this?
Sounds and music and sound effects. It's just like it. Yeah, it's video's a bit easier.
Yeah. I'd much rather edit a hour-long video than a 20-minute podcast audio. I'd much rather.
Yeah, I agree. Like, even like I was telling you before, I was up this morning, I was editing, and I did an interview last night, and I think that video, the whole raw video, is literally about 45 minutes. I cut off the beginning, I cut off the end, boom. That's like nothing. Slide in all of my bumpers, we got thumbnails from the PR person, put it in the bumper, beginning, end, put my watermark. The hardest part of anything, the most tedious part, is going in and putting all of the little captions come up to show links and names and stuff like that. That takes the most time. Like that audio podcast, it takes longer to render. That video podcast takes longer to render than it does for me to actually do it and cut it.
Man, yes. And God forbid you forget to take the noise out, the noise reduction. God forbid you forget that. It's just like your podcast sounds like trash the next day. It's like, oh God, why did I do that? Like, listen, everybody, this is my podcast except this episode.
Look, I've done
that one.
I've had somebody who listened, they listen to the audio. It's like, Yeah, such and such. It's like somebody was like, yeah, such and such, like you can hear it really loud. So I took down that version. Luckily, I hadn't deleted my program file or my project file. Went back in and did the noise reduction, then re-edited it and reposted it like the next day.
Yeah. Cause there was one time I recorded too, and like the gain was super high, and I was like, "Yo," wife said, "Listen, baby, you sound like you're yelling." I'm like, "Let me listen to it." I was like, "Yo, it do." It sounded like what I said sounded like you had the mic in your mouth the whole time you were talking. I'm like, "Wow." So like I said, trial by fire, live and you learn.
Yes. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So you got the awards, you got the podcast, you got the wrestling podcast. You also have Lovebirds, right? Love Bloods,
Yeah,
excuse me, not Love
yeah.
Bloods. What's next? What's next on your horizon for your growing media empire?
Next right now is the website. DYSGmedia.com, as I always say in every podcast, is coming soon. For those of you who are faithfully listening, I promise you it is coming soon. What I want to do with this website is different from the last one that I had and make it a lot more communal. I'm definitely going to have pages dedicated to things like, podcasters, other than myself. I'm going to have pages dedicated to cosplayers, nerdcore artists. There's even going to be a blog space to where people can bring in their own articles and submit them. And, if they are up to a certain standard, of course, we post those on page 2 as well. I want it just to be about me and what I got going on as well too. I definitely want to make sure that's spotlighted, but at
Hmm.
the same time, I want to make this website a lot more communal. People who can contribute, articles, or if they have a new fire cosplay that they want to debut, like, hey, this one I got new fire cosplay, hit the
Right.
pictures, put them up on your website. Or like, with the music, I'm going to call it the DYSG download. Basically, these nerdcore artists who have music, hey, I got a new track, play that on the website, tell everybody where they can get it. Bet I got you.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So what upcoming cons are you attending?
Um, let's see. The next con, what is this? We're in April, right? Going into May.
Yeah.
So May is the local con here for me, which is Tidewater Comic Con here in
Okay.
Virginia Beach.
All right. It's 18th.
That's that's the next one for me. And then in June, me and my family we're gonna try to make it to GalaxyCon in Raleigh because we missed the one in Richmond.
Okay.
So we're gonna try to make Raleigh. I don't think I have anything else going on in June, and then of course July is BlurCon.
BlurCon,
Gotta go to
right.
BlurCon. Gotta hit that every single year. That's homecoming right
Yeah,
there.
that's
You don't even,
family. That's
yeah, it
family
don't even.
right there.
I was telling everybody, man, like BlurCon, man, it don't even feel like a con no more to me. Like,
No.
I know that's weird to say that, but it don't feel like a con anymore to me. Like, I go to BlurCon and catch up with folks who I ain't seen in a while. Like, hey, what's up, cousin? Like, just talking with them and everything like that. Like, even when I have to do work, it don't feel like work because I'm there with family.
Right. Man, let me tell you, BlurCon, I see people I went to school with all the time there. Like literally, I ain't seen you in 20 years. Yo, Matt, how you doing? Yo, Trey, what's going on? Like
Right?
last year I saw a colleague of mine from another agency who I work with all the time. She was there, she brought her son. And then again, all the community members like you, Montel, everybody. Like I always see somebody new who I haven't seen in years when I go to BlurCon. Literally, it is like homecoming, straight up.
Yeah, exactly, man. It feels like one big family reunion. That's exactly what it feels like. It don't even like the first year I went, it was like, yeah, oh yeah, I get to meet them for the first time. Meet them. But after like 2 or 3 years, I'm like, man, this don't even feel like a con no more. No disrespect, it's definitely a con because there's Artist Alley and then
Right.
there's cosplay contest. It's an amazing time, but when I'm there, it's like it's just so. Like it's a different kind of feel. Like people who ain't been in BlurCon, you don't know until you go. You gotta
Yeah.
go experience it for yourself for sure.
Yeah, for real. I was on my live stream this morning. I was talking about BlurCon. And I said I made a mistake. Like it's been so much going on. I forgot to submit my panel, so I'm like I missed that window. But I said I applied for press. But I said this is a con I'll pay to go to if I have to. Like I don't care, just
Right?
support. But I said gotta get the oxtails from the Jamaican truck. That's like a must when I go.
Yo, I forget the name of the truck, but this one truck, man, they got the garlic fries, the garlic parmesan fries.
Ooh, okay.
Oh my god, it's always the one. So like as soon as you go out there, right, and where the
Hmm.
stage is. So let's say the stage is right here. You're right in front of the stage,
Right.
and then over to the left side, there's this truck that always sits in the corner. Not the red truck that got the bomb ass lemonade that's like this damn big, because I gotta get one of those too.
Right.
But the truck next to it, to the right of that, but to also the left, they got these bomb ass garlic parmesan fries, and I get them every year I
Oh, I
go.
gotta try them. I will probably be up because I think the last couple of years I've pretty much been a one day and done. Depending on how things swing, I let's just say that I have a lot of free time that week,
Mm-hmm.
where and you'll understand this, I have no responsibilities.
Mm.
So all I gotta worry about is me. So
Yes, sir.
I'll probably be up there like that whole weekend. And I'm like 20 minutes down the road. So that's like nothing but a car ride and I'll just be there. Um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to just kind of hanging and enjoying and eating a lot of good food, seeing a lot of people, a lot of vendors, you guys, and just hanging out. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, BlurCon is really just like it's like going home. It's like homecoming. It's really
Exactly.
what it's like. Hey, where'd you go to school?
I went to school in North Carolina. The high school I went to was Tarboro, North Carolina. Tarboro High School. That's where I graduated from in high
Okay,
school. Small town, North Carolina. You never heard of it unless you've heard of Todd Gurley. That's the only
okay,
person who came from my hometown. As far as college, I only did a stint in community college and kind of, gave that up.
okay.
Um, I told my mama I ain't gonna go back to school though, as far as journalism, because I do believe that journalism, as far as its integrity, is dying a bit. So I feel like I'm going to get my journalism degree and really submit myself as a journalist at some point or another with this
Mhm.
DYSG media, because a lot of people just kind of like I've seen whole stories and news articles from these outlets, and they're based on a tweet. I'm like, I'm
Man,
sorry. I'm sorry. A what? There's no research. There was no sort of, you know, talking to anyone, corroborating any stories, getting feedback. You saw a tweet and you wrote a 500 word article on that. I'm like, huh, okay.
I hate, let me tell you, man, I hate that. I hate the misleading clickbait titles of articles that make you think one thing and then you read it and it's like this is some BS. Like this doesn't even correspond with like you gaslighting us to read the article. I am so tired of, in many respects, and I blame the internet because the internet is about attention and eyeballs, and that's
Mm-hmm.
bled into print media, but it's so sensationalized and there's no, I would say no real reporting, but a lot of the real reporting gets buried under the sensational stuff, or people, like you said, people go for tweet. And I don't know, I watch John Campier from time to time, and one of the things he always talks about when he addresses, especially entertainment sort of stuff, he's just like, look at where it came from. Look at the original source. Stop going with just a rumor that was put in somewhere. Look at what the original source was. If it's not a credible source, don't run with it. But he said, like, he'll have like say Kotaku or somebody else running for a story, and you go back like this came from um some post on some obscure website that nobody's ever heard before, but this is what people are going with no sort of information. I said, why do you, the chase for clicks and views is that serious that you would just put anything out there is absolutely ridiculous. And I personally, I stopped reading a lot of stuff because that's what they kept doing.
Yeah.
I stopped watching a lot of people because that's what they kept doing. Like there are creators, none of the Blur creators, but there are creators that I watched in the geek space that I literally stopped watching and unsubscribed from because every video was this clickbaity title and then talking about some rumor that is unsubstantiated. I'm like, if this is all you're talking about now, I want some substance. I want to know what's going on. I don't want the fluff or the conjecture or the rumor. So I unsubscribe. And so much of quote unquote content or journalistic content nowadays really boils down to that. And it's really frustrating.
Yeah, and I wish I could echo your same sentiments by saying it's not in the Blur community, but it's Blur's doing it too. It's
Oh, I'm
Blur's doing
sure.
it too. Because I have watched people who I know for a fact have pages, or at least some other content is dedicated to bringing reviews or some sort of a news based upon something that happens in the geek culture. And to me, it ain't just the post that gets me sometimes, it's the repost. Like, you knew this was BS from the beginning.
Right.
Why'd you repost this?
Right.
Why would you keep this lie alive? Is what I'm
Right.
saying. Like, why would you do that? Like, why are you reposting this? And I'll go on to people's face like fake news, the whole Donald Trump meme and everything, fake news, fake news. Like, why? But at the same time, I'm like, why are you reposting this shit?
Right. Exactly.
It's not true.
Exactly. I hate that. And I'm not saying I think a lot of the Blur creators I follow don't fall into that. So I know that I'm picky and I will unsubscribe you in a heartbeat, personally speaking. And so if for me personally, I'm like, if I'm following you and I'm enjoying your content, then you're making some good stuff. Other than that, I will unsubscribe after a certain amount of time. Like, I don't watch you. This is not really up to snuff, so I will unsubscribe. And I think also something like that, that point of view really speaks to the quality and effort that you put into what you put out.
Yeah.
So the fact that, especially with Do You Speak Geek, with all your segments, you make sure you're speaking from facts and experience. Like, you've read the comics, you've done this. The wrestling podcast, everybody there has, some knowledge. Not saying you can't be a fan that just got on board, but
Right.
having a podcast, especially something like that, where you have people who have history and knowledge of wrestling and love of wrestling as a whole, not just WWE, because I do the same thing over at Kayfabe Baby, and one of the things we always talk about, like, we between the three of us, there's such a history and knowledge, and also willingness to watch and experience new things as well, and you can't really have good conversations without having some experience in what you're talking about, and just kind of talking about the flush, talking about the rumors. That doesn't work, and you see that in the content that you put out, and also that translates into what content you don't tolerate either.
Exactly. Yeah. One thing about my podcast, I will say that I make sure that there's a clear distinction between what's actual fact and
Right,
then what is me or my colleagues and I giving an opinion.
right,
I make sure that it's, when you're listening, you can hear it, like, okay, this is something that he's definitely reporting. This is a fact. And then I transition in some sort of a way into, okay, this is what I think of this. This is an opinion. Hey, I'll ask somebody on the pod, hey, what do you think about this? You know, it's one thing to give an opinion, it's nothing to actually state a fact. And with the wrestling thing, yeah, you gotta know your shit stepping in my arena, because
hmm
for me, I feel like wrestling is one of the truest art forms there is, as far as a physical art form.
agreed.
I shout out to my man, shout out to my other guy, he's gonna keep me that guy's name now, but he's part of Blur's Eye View. Um, People are fake. Wrestling is real. And for anyone who says the whole thing that wrestling is fake, like, listen, if you only understood just how real wrestling is, you would
You
not say
know,
that shit.
I was when I last Kayfabe Baby, either the last one or the one before, and I just said, I don't remember I said it on camera, or I think I said it on camera recorded, but I asked him, is wrestling more exciting now because you know how it works? Like, I feel like it's that much more exciting because I know how it works. I know how hard to work. I know how to do these things. I know how hard it is to put everything together. So when everything goes right, like, I'm even more of a kid, or as more of a pop, because I understand all the in little idiosyncrasies, all of the details that go into making that spot work. Even if I can't do it myself, I get it.
Right.
I understand it. And it's just so masterful as an adult, understand, like, this is awesome. This is amazing. Why is the offspring in the household, they're just like, they're for the excitement, for the crowd, and making us hold up signs with Cody and Roman while we're watching on WrestleMania. Like, they're like the kid, and I remember that because I was a kid watching wrestling and Hogan
Yeah,
and all
man.
of them, and it's something knowing, like I said, very true. People are fake, wrestling is real, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's just it's a beautiful thing nowadays.
Yeah, man. It's like for some people, when the curtain gets pulled back, they are jaded a bit and they don't
Hmm.
like it as much. But then there are people like yourself and me, when the curtain's peeled back and we understand not only what goes into making a match great, but also
Right,
making a whole card great. What goes into the marketing aspect, the business aspect of things. When you understand certain things about wrestling, pro wrestling behind the scenes,
right,
you either get jaded and you don't like it anymore, or it makes you appreciate it so much more because you know
right,
that these people are putting not only their bodies on the line, but their time with the people that they love on the line too. And that's one
right,
thing that I appreciate every performer out there, from the indies to Roman Reigns. You guys
right.
put your bodies and your family time on the line for my enjoyment. And I'm always going to be on the side of the performers. I thank y'all so much.
Right, I agree. I agree. And even, people like us, like I remember, and I don't know if you noticed on WrestleMania, I'm sitting there and I'm like the camera angles, the way they're covering the action, it was just like I even down to that detail, I'm like, I'm getting hype at the presentation of the sports,
Yeah.
so to speak. It's really amazing. Even the stuff that, while I have issues with some of the things that AEW does, more importantly, they need to get their stories together. The wrestling is great.
Yeah, but see, that's what makes AEW so great, though.
Yeah,
Like I think what a lot of organizations and promotion need to understand is what makes them great,
right.
and do that.
Yes.
It's only when you start doing things like the other guy trying to compete where you
Right.
fall. With AEW, yeah, of course, there has to be some sort of a story or a why we're doing this. You can't
Right.
just go out there and put on match after match after match, and there's no kind of story behind it. But at the same time, with the AEW, if they can just give us really a story we can follow,
Hmm.
something compelling, something that makes me give a damn about what's going on, and then turn around and give me a 4.5 or a 5-star Meltzer
Right.
Classic, that's when you got me. AEW is wonderful at giving you these kind of matches. WWE, not so much, but they give you great story.
Right.
They give you these amazing characters.
Right.
That's what they do well. So it's only when you when you abandon, the horse that got you here, is when you start messing up. And I
Yeah.
think that's what AEW is doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, and we talk about this on Kayfabe Baby. It's not that we don't understand; it's just that you don't need these robust video packs. Sometimes that will help. AEW, I
Mhm.
think, like WWE, especially with a lot of the storylines they kind of carry over from like the Willow and Sasha thing. Dude, if you had more of a storytelling with that to really set things up, especially footage from New Japan, there's stories there. You don't need these robust video packages, but I think like with that case particularly, you are not telling a compelling story leading up to where you are now,
Exactly.
personally speaking. Um, and even with the things this week as far as Sasha, not Sasha, Mercedes, excuse me, uh, crashing Willow's party and everything, like that was perfect. That's what should have
Yeah,
happened. But again, if I didn't know about the New Japan connection, I wouldn't understand why that would be an issue. And even though
exactly.
they talk about it, having Excalibur, whomever talk about it, doesn't do a good job of really making it compelling. And like you said, and I was bringing up AEW, and that, like I said, I have issues, but the things they do, the sort of matches they put on, the starting from nothing, and 5 years later being this this wrestling company. Of course, it helps having $1 billion in your back pocket, obviously.
Of course,
Or
always.
even the fact that TNA is still here. TNA is still doing their damn thing and putting on good shows, even through all of the turmoil on being on life support. They were back 4 or 5 years ago. MLW still, like, there's so much wrestling, and I appreciate what everybody does. Good, not so much the bad, but the good stuff, the production, the work, the much like you said, creating their own sort of flavor of
Hmm.
all of this. it's such an amazing time to be a wrestling fan, in my opinion. And I
It's
think,
the best time to be a
yeah,
wrestling fan. I tell like right now, I tell people right now, like, listen, I watch wrestling my entire life as well as playing video games.
hmm,
The three things I've done my whole life is four things really. I've watched wrestling, I play video games, I read comics, I listen to hip hop. I've done it my whole life. So with wrestling right now, it is literally the best time to be a
right.
wrestling fan. It
It
is the
really
best
is.
time, even with all the BS that goes on behind the scenes. Even with WWE and the whole thing with man, even with AEW and showing the video package and the stuff that Tony Khan just recently said on a sports show. Even with all the BS that's going on, this is still some of the best content in wrestling that we
It
have gotten
really is.
and it's and with the way these companies now are wanting to give you more, and there's more opportunities to watch it. The companies now are getting a little less standoffish from each other and
Right.
are working together, and you're now going to start getting these dream matches that when I was a kid I could have only wished to have seen certain matches, and they never would happen. But now, who's to say 4 years from now we won't get certain dream matches that we never thought would happen? Who's to say
Right.
we'll never get a premium live event or pay-per-view where two promotions are sharing the billing? That's going to be insane to watch
Yeah.
that happen.
And it's so possible, and that's the craziest part of it all. I think we talk, and it's just like there's some weeks where we all. I think Sean is the only one who doesn't have he only has a spouse. So we like, you ain't got the other parts of everything. But even with that, with your families, your work, it's hard. There's only wrestling Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, double on Thursday and Friday. Don't have that be don't have Impact have a pay-per-view either on Friday or Saturday like they do. And then you have a WWE PLE on Saturday, and you could have, depending on the week, you could have what, AEW or Ring of Honor one of those days too. It's like and again, I'm not even like, I don't have, I think MLW is on Bein, so I don't even know what data we comes on, but I know that's on YouTube. NWA is on CW. And there's so much wrestling out there. You can literally sit and watch wrestling all day, every
Every
day,
day.
and always find something new now. And that is unbelievable when you think about it.
Yeah, like you hit the nail on the head, man. That you literally can watch wrestling all day, every day. And I think there was one time last year where that actually happened, where there was wrestling on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it was just like I'm burnt out.
Right.
I'm I'm completely burnt out. I enjoyed every second of it, but I'm burnt out. And we all have our nitpicks too when it comes to stuff like that. I mean, I know some people would rather have pay-per-views on Sundays, some rather have on Saturdays. Me personally, I'd rather have on Saturdays. That way I can
I'm like
stay
that
up.
beside it. Yeah,
I
exactly.
can stay up late and watch pay-per-view, and then the next day I can recover. Whereas Sunday pay-per-views, looking at you, AEW, they go on 12 o'clock. And it's just like, dude, I gotta work in the morning.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
gotta work.
Exactly.
I can't wait all night to watch Swerve win. I gotta go to work.
Right. Exactly.
I
Like you
mean,
can't.
I did, but
Right.
I'd rather not. I'd rather have not.
Exactly. I think that like that WrestleMania weekend, while I didn't do the Ring of Honor, uh, between Stand and Deliver, and then like at least we got a little bit of a break, and then night one, and then night two, and I'm like, that was a lot right there. Even though I had a good uh, what 18-hour break between the end of night one and the beginning of night two. I mean, that was still like a lot of wrestling for that weekend, and I can only imagine like some of the, both Sean and well, Sean was actually in Philly that weekend, so he went to a couple of different things, including WrestleMania night one and two, and he was like,
Oh,
it was insane. And Kuya P was up there doing press on Thursday, into Friday, so he was like, it was just really insane the amount of wrestling. And everything that was going on. I think like TNA was there. I think they were taping during the week too. It was insane there, and that's just again what we have to watch now, what sort of wrestling is available. I never would have thought as a kid. Now, as a kid, and this is before cable, the best I got, and I was born in '78. The best I got was maybe wrestling twice a week. No, 3 times a week because it was a NWA, but NWA was kind of NWA and WCW, but it was syndicated before it went to TBS, and I think that was on Saturdays.
Hmm.
Uh, WWE or WF Superstars was on. That was before everything switched over to Raw. That was like mid '80s there, and it was one other. Oh, I had Glow. Like that was my wrestling. And then you had the Saturday night main event on NBC, which I don't know why and how my mom let me stay up for. But yeah, that was like the best I could do for wrestling. And all of those may happen. Or I may be able to watch all those in one week. But again, really superstars, WCW, NWA, whatever it was, at that period of time, and Saturday night main event was still all on Saturday.
Yeah,
And Glow was probably on Saturday too, now that I think about it. So yeah, I had one day of wrestling growing up for the most part.
yeah.
Before a lot of things switched over to cable. Now it's every day. I can literally just go on my TV, and we ain't even talking about YouTube clips and whatnot. With like full
Man,
wrestling programs, just are always at your disposal, and it is a beautiful time to be a wrestling fan. It
I
is
I feel bad for any new wrestling fan that finds a wrestler that they love and they take that rabbit hole down YouTube with their matches because
yes.
when this was back probably at the start. This was right after the first All In. My
Hmm.
son wasn't aware of these guys who from from the New Japan scene or the Bullet Club. He wasn't
Hmm.
aware of these guys, so he got a chance to actually get introduced to the likes of the Bucks and Omega and you know Joey Janela and the likes of those guys. He didn't really know about those because he grew up. All he knew was that there was WWE. All he knew was John Cena. All
Right.
he knew was Randy Orton. So he started watching these guys. He wanted to go down the rabbit hole. And when I tell you it is so fun to watch a little, at the time he was maybe 9.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's about 9, to watch a little 9-year-old lose his absolute shit watching the Super Juniors 17 with Ricochet and Osprey.
Oh man.
Oh my
Oh
god.
man.
Like when I tell you my son was losing his mind. He was like, Ricochet was like this. I'm like, yes, son. Ricochet was like that. Who's the other guy? That's Will Osprey. You'll probably never see him wrestling in America. And how wrong was I?
Right. Oh, let me tell you this. I think it was I don't remember if it was because it was about two. It might have been Awoken Matt Hardy. I don't remember because like it. I'm trying to think. They were like two when Broken Matt Hardy was there in Impact at the time. I don't remember how I introduced them to Matt Hardy, but Matt Hardy was their favorite wrestler, and I remember distinctly. They couldn't be no more than 4 years old, maybe 5. They're about to be 10 now, so it's been a while. I'm in the kitchen and I'm sitting in the kitchen and they're upstairs with my wife and I just hear this laugh and I start dying because they literally did broken Matt Hardy's laugh up there with my wife and my wife is like, what I said, oh, now mind you, my wife, first when we started dating before I proposed, our first Christmas together, she took me to see Raw at the Verizon Center. So that tells you about my wife
Oh,
right there. So
shout out to you, wifey. Shout
right.
out to
So
you.
she understands the love of wrestling. She likes it too, but I love it. So the fact that the offspring was just doing the laugh and I was like, I'm doing good as a father. I'm doing
Yeah,
good
right.
as
It feels good.
and when now that Broken is back in TNA, I showed them the video. They went crazy. They're like, delete, 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 delete.
Yeah.
Brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah. Yeah, like when my son actually he went back to school the that year after watching that summertime, and he got into a debate with somebody about wrestling or whatever, and he was like, "Listen, I don't care who you're talking about, because they're talking about all the WWE guys. And listen,
Hmm.
I don't care what y'all saying. Can none of y'all guys beat Will Ospreay?" And he was right. He's right then. He's right now,
Yep.
because Will Ospreay is just something different. I don't know what it is about him, but the guy is just different.
Oh yeah, he is different, and my biggest hope for Osprey is that they don't screw up. Well, my biggest fear, I just hope they don't screw up. Straight up, I really hope, because they have AEW has a gold mine of talent.
Yeah.
They, in my opinion, whatever they're doing, I don't think they've been capitalizing to the potential of a lot of their talent as far as growing their product. Uh, Again, people can say certain things, but I think it's kind of evident they aren't where a lot of us think they should be,
Mm-hmm.
based on the talent that they have as far as us wrestling fans. Uh, so I'm just hoping that they don't. I am excited for Swerve being champion. I hope they don't
Oh
screw
yeah.
up his booking, because that's a guy who I've been watching since Lucha Underground,
Yeah. Swerve,
and the
man.
fact that, like, he's one of the guys at AEW who I've loved his evolution of his character over the past few years being with the company, um,
Yeah.
and for him to be champion again, it's a 5-year old company. I could care less if the champion is black and out from the context of history. It's a 5-year old company. Now, if it was 40 years and they just get a black champion, that's a different conversation, in my opinion.
Yeah. Because I was in a group chat with my guys CCW, and we were talking about, how I think with Cody Rhodes, because I want to talk about Cody Rhodes, is the new black champion. I'm like, all right, that's funny, but
I've seen that too. Like, yeah, he is Latino. Okay, I'll give him that. His mom's Cuban. I'll give him that. But and he
because
is married
people
to a
because
black
people
woman.
because people
Okay.
love to call him Cody Luther King. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
okay, that's funny. I get y'all that. But we were talking about how WWE has only had like 5 black champions. I'm like, yeah. For me, I say 3, because I don't count Rock, because he's black when it's convenient for him, and I don't count the big goal. I count the WWE title, and there's only been 3 guys, and they said that well, NXT has had 4 champions that have been black. Well, yeah, NXT is a lot younger than
Hmm.
WWE, so yeah. To echo that same sentiment, yeah, for sure. It's cool that Swerve has been the first black champion in AEW, because it's only a 5-year company. Hopefully, he won't be the last. Hopefully, he will get multiple title reigns. And with Swerve, I could just see him becoming uh, an extremely big face of the company, if not the face of the company.
I agree.
They definitely can do the same thing with Osprey. In fact, hell, you can even have Osprey win that international championship, have him hold that for a long ass time, have Swerve hold the AEW championship for a long ass time, and then maybe say come next year's Revolution, you give us like a Hogan Warrior esque title for title match.
That's great booking. And I love that. I think that would be amazing. And honestly, I think, because one of the things we talk about, and I think what Roddy has international now, which I thought it was a great move, by the way. But my biggest issue with the international title, I don't think while Orange Cassidy is a workhorse, don't get me wrong, I will never take that away from
Yeah.
him. I don't think him having a title for as long as he did put a lot of weight on the title from a outside looking in perspective. I think Roddy could do it justice, but I think Osprey is a perfect person to put that on. And
Mm-hmm.
not just the fact that he's a better wrestler, but his pedigree is different from Roddy. I love Roddy. I love Roderick Strong. I love what he's done in the neck, like
I'm
the
not. I'm
whole
not feeling that. I'm not feeling that mustache, but I do love Roddy though.
the mustache, no, but the whole gimmick and everything, the neck strong thing, it was pure gold as far as I'm concerned. And he's a great wrestler, but I think I look at AEW differently, because I am constantly looking at people If someone has the title, they should be elevating the company. I
Mm,
don't think Orange elevated the company. I don't think Roddy elevates the company. I think, and again, yes, I know it's a different set of circumstances, but AEW is not WWE. WWE doesn't need somebody to elevate the company by having a title. Frankly, when WWE does it right, which is what they've been doing a lot of lately, people don't need a title to elevate the company. AEW, the way, at least in my opinion, they've been doing a lot of booking, you a title on somebody, it should be elevating the company. Osprey, somebody can do that. Swerve is somebody that can do that. Um, Tony, I love her and what she's doing. I think her gimmick and what she's doing, and I mean, she's always been a good wrestler, is elevating the women's division. I can't
absolutely.
say that about some of the champions for her, and no disrespect to them, but this gimmick is money,
Oh yeah,
absolute money, and like her promos and everything. But she's elevating that title. That's, in my opinion, what AEW needs. If somebody's going to have that title, they need to elevate it more so than the person before them because there's a lot of weight. When it like, I thought it was a great decision putting the Continental title on Okada. Yeah, the second message. It's Okada.
yeah,
That's international eyes there, and he is a hell of a wrestler.
exactly.
So, and I think that he will elevate the stature of that title. And again, I love Eddie Kingston. I love Eddie Kingston since Impact TNA when he's with Santana Ortiz with LAX, that version of that.
Yeah,
Love them then. Okada is something different when it
exactly.
comes to
Like,
a title and being a face with a title.
yeah,
So I think that anybody who comes after Swerve, they need to make sure they elevate the title. And the international being on World Osprey is a perfect move in my opinion.
absolutely. It'll definitely help elevate the title, and with AEW, it'll help elevate the company as well too.
Yep, yep,
You know,
definitely.
it's like you said with the WWE, they really don't need to elevate the company, but they have done so recently, and there's not been a title involved. Like the fact that they have put three black women together and they're calling themselves the Big Three, shutting down social media every single time you see a post that has elevated the company because now you have sisters at the fucking salon talking about wrestling. Let's go, Triple H. Let's go, man.
Okay, so my daughter, when she saw them, and mind you, I got her into Trinity when she was Trinity in TNA. She's like, she just, it's weird. It's like she saw Naomi before,
Mm-hmm.
but watching those matches with her and Jordan Grace, she just like Trinity,
And,
Trinity,
and they
Trinity.
were damn good
They
matches too.
they would. Oh yeah. And that's my only issue. Not any issue before this whole team up. I felt like that WD was squandering Naomi, especially after that incredible run in those matches he had in TNA. But that's
Mm-hmm.
another story. But when she saw them come out in that entrance, you see what representation does. You see how excited that little black girls are to see something like that. And I forget exactly what she said, but she says something to that effect, like, I see me. And that is such a beautiful thing. And, I hope everybody, regardless of nationalities, they see wrestlers and they see them, especially little kids, like they see themselves in these people and see the sort of heights that they can reach, much like those wrestlers. And that's just a beautiful thing. And again, no belts. You don't need to have a belt on any of them. Just some good wrestling, and Jade is a force of nature. Well, they all are. Like
Yeah.
seriously, it's amazing. Like you said, elevating the company right there. No belts, no, I would say no wrist on, but you got the storyline with damage control, and even that you got. And she used to be still is a fan of Asuka, always has been. You have Asuka, Kairi Sane, Dakota Kai, Io Shirai. Oh, excuse me, Io Sky. I always say Io Shirai. I forget they changed it to Sky. Uh,
Yeah.
but like you have those women of Japanese descent, so little Japanese girls around the country are seeing them and being inspired by those women and the matches they have and seeing um, the strength, the femininity, the athleticism. It's so beautiful when you think about, and I'll say more than any other sport, and this is going to AEW, WWE. There's
Mhm.
something about wrestling that when you have that representation, it just translates in a totally different way. I mean, look at Kofi Mania. Look at
Mm.
how big that was. And yes, it's because he was black to a degree, but Cody put in the work. Cody represented that everyman that goes to that job, they grinded, you keep your head down. Not saying Cody hadn't been a champion before,
Right.
but to win the big belt, to get rewarded for that. And also he got there because of the fans believing in him. Like those are stories that when you look at representation, like any kid, hell, any grown man can see
Yeah.
themselves in Kofi. Um, so it's really amazing how I think wrestling and this storytelling and this art really translates in ways that so many other mediums just cannot.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Wrestling is amazing, man. It's crazy because, like you said, now we're gonna hear little black girls now saying what they want to do with their lives. Like, which when you grow up, I want to be a professional wrestler.
Look,
What?
my cousin, um, was one Thanksgiving. She has two little girls. So Salt and her husband, and the oldest is a fan of Bianca Belair. You know, before a track meet, she swings her ponytail like Bianca Belair.
Hey, yeah, let's go.
Right. So it's just one of those things where it's so beautiful to see your representation. Now, I was already late for you, so I ain't gonna keep you any longer.
Hey,
uh,
man, we
yeah, we can
so
talk
wrestling
more
all
about
day long, wrestling all day long.
right, right. So tell everybody, well, if there's anything new coming up in the immediate future, but more importantly, tell everybody where they can find you.
Nothing new in the immediate future right now. Just steadily create more content, getting the website ready. But until then, you guys can find me on all social medias. Facebook at DYSGFB, Twitter at DYSG underscore tweets. And when it comes to Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, for as long as we have it, and threads, you can find me at Do You Speak Geek.
All right, next, thank you, man. I appreciate your time. Everybody, you should have seen all of that flash below. If not, it'll be in the show notes, or if you're watching us on the website down below of this video. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your listening here. And remember, stay safe out there and be blessed. Peace.
Peace, y'all.